Hey everybody, welcome to Wednesday. Yes, as you see by the title of this video, we're going to talk about the right to offend today and a case study that shows why it's important. Now, this case study is a political figure. This will not be a politicized video. This will not be about the right being bad, the left being bad, because this is a case study where the right and the extreme left are both mad. So it works out beautifully so we can focus on ideas instead of people. And a commenter, I believe it was it Hans, told me the quote. I think I blanked on it because, yes, Hans did say the quote I was looking for yesterday was great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, small minds discuss people. And I probably assumed as I spit on myself that was wrong because that would be me unironically referring to myself as a great mind, which I'm not comfortable doing, but that's the quote. If you like this sort of content that discusses ideas and events and not people, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or more accurately, uses events to discuss ideas. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to use an event to discuss ideas because this one good in terms of just getting to the heart of everything that's wrong with some of the mental shortcuts that go on in the tech space in general and especially the gaming space. And it figures heavily on the role of Twitter. Now, I think we can all sort of agree that Twitter is a tool. Twitter does not force you to do anything. The way most people use Twitter does not compel you, in my opinion. I do not have hard evidence of this at my fingertips right now. But in my opinion, as somebody who uses Twitter quite often and who is a YouTube content creator, Twitter does not force you or coerce you into lowest common denominator behavior the way YouTube does. YouTube forces you to discuss people over events and events over ideas in order to get any real traffic because that's how you game the algorithm. People tend to search people, as opposed to events second, ideas last, right? Like, people aren't going to be Googling sex positive feminism the same way they're going to be Googling, like, Anita Sarkeesian. So every time I do a video that's a sex positive feminist response to Anita Sarkeesian, I get more traffic if Anita Sarkeesian is in the name. And I hate this. I hate that because she is pretty much the only person that gaming allows to have a profile in this space, she gets, dumped on by everybody. Even when we try to be nice, just because that's what people are interested in. And this is why I believe we need more diversity of voices, diversity of thought, so that the dunking on spreads around. I'm happy to get dunked on more if it means that my profile has increased. Not gonna lie, bring on the Duncan if it comes with, more clicks and more money. The more money I make, the more tolerant I am of the dunks. Just saying, I'm a capitalist, okay? But I'm not sure Neera Tanden right now would agree with me because Neera Tanden has been nominated for, I'm Canadian, Federal Office of Management and Budget head. Pretty high profile position. And so what was her first act before she's even confirmed? She deleted 1,000 tweets because numerous senators have called her problematic. No, I'm not kidding. Right-wing senators have referred to someone as problematic. Like I said, this is an awesome case study. Everything is so good about this case study from just this is why we need to have the right to offend perspective, okay? Neera Tanden has been declared a problematic person, which in the culture wars is like the Scientology suppressive person type thing. We don't ask, we just excommunicate because problematic, right? You notice I'm giddy because like, oh my God, it's all coming together. Okay. And the commentary is that, oh, she's mean on Twitter. The sort of left of the whole thing is saying, oh, she's being blocked for mean tweets. And in fact, this might not be an exaggeration. John Cornyn from Texas, am I getting his name right? I'm not, like I said, I'm Canadian. I think that's his name. They just have Cornyn from Texas. But he's a Republican, and he unironically used the term problematic, okay? On Monday, Cornyn from Texas told reporters he thought Tanden was Biden's worst nominee so far. Her combative and insulting comments about many members of the Senate, mainly on our side of the aisle, create certainly a problematic path. There's evidence that a right-winger used the term problematic, okay? It gets better. I'm not going to focus on the comparisons to Trump, okay? I think that's a red herring in this case. I think there's a greater issue, possibly. This is not a hill I'm willing to die on, but I had a thought bubble that this could possibly actually be, if not the letter of the First Amendment issue, then the spirit of the First Amendment issue, which is somebody basically being persecuted by a wing of the government for, one, doing their job, two, their opinions. And that's a no-no from the First Amendment. Now, to be clear, no one is entitled to a job, okay? I'm not saying that, especially a high-ranking job like this. There's a confirmation process for a reason. The purpose of the confirmation process, however, is not to determine whether someone is a nice and polite person. It is to determine whether someone is qualified and whether somebody was, a badass Twitter troll is not part of the qualification process for the office that she's looking to take. Now, this is where we go down to, is she being punished now? Is she being sidelined from being seen as qualified for a job she's applying to now because she was very good at her job for the Hillary Clinton campaign and other Democratic causes? Remember I said that the left is mad at her as well? Yeah, the Bernie Sanders wing of the Democratic Party is, according to, not the most reliable source that I'm using here, but it summarizes it the best. Other sources have had it all over the place. So I have confirmed this, even though I'm using Fox News as a source, okay? Biden's OMB pick, Neera Tanden, angers Bernie Sanders allied progressives. And unlike many things you find on Fox News, this is actually an accurate depiction of the story. Let me center it. But you'll see the tweets. And this is important because you notice I haven't said the mean, awful things that Neera Tanden said in her tweets. I'm getting to that because this is what people are saying Neera Tanden right now, okay? Everything toxic about the corporate Democratic Party is embodied in Neera Tanden, responding to, email from my mother. During Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign, Neera Tanden was a prime supporter of recruiting liberal columnists to weaponize identity and stifle Bernie Sanders' campaign for economic, racial, social, and environmental justice. Translate through the political lens here as Neera Tanden worked for the Hillary Clinton campaign and was a really effective operative. Okay, now I say this because let's get to what Neera Tanden has said that is so all-fired terrible. Some of the tweets that she has deleted for being no good, very bad. Okay, I've got a million articles. Here we go. So this is the one that the media seized on first and foremost. Okay, mean, awful tweet, might deny her confirmation. Okay, here we go. Can people please focus their ire on here, meaning Twitter? Please focus their ire on McConnell and the GOP senators who are up this cycle who enable him. Cory Gardner, Collins, Ernst, Cornyn, Perdue, Tillis, and many more. Tanden wrote in a since-deleted tweet from June 2019 about the seven Republican senators. Again, this is a Democratic political operative. She also went after Susan Collins in her re-election campaign. There, his name's John Cornyn. And so on and so forth. That is the substance of the bulk of her tweets, okay? That members of the Republican Party are enablers. That's pretty much all she said, okay? I want to compare this to someone on the other side of the aisle, a former Republican operative who now works for the Lincoln Project, Steve Schmidt, who, full disclosure, I freaking love Steve Schmidt's Twitter feed, okay? But that's because he is harsh. I would never want him mad at me, okay? But Steve Schmidt worked on John McCain's campaign, okay? He is not a Trumper. He is an establishment Republican, right? I said work for the Lincoln Project right now. Okay, here we go. This is just one example. And this was from this week, okay? Steve Schmidt. Okay, let me fix this so you can see it in all its glory. Sorry, I'm having to go back and forth because of website stuff. But the First Amendment is a beautiful thing. Looting Loeffler tells the story of a COVID profiteer worth $500 million who sells out Georgia with corrupt acts. I predict that Project Lincoln may get one of these as well. Okay, compared to Neera Tanden calling them enablers, Looting Loeffler tells the story of a COVID profiteer worth $500 million who sets out Georgia with corrupt acts. And when you go through, there's a bunch of like ferret pics and things like that. But it is, okay, here's another one. Ted Cruz, you are a disgrace to your office and a national embarrassment. Okay, this is just recent memory, okay? Republican. National embarrassment. What a profoundly stupid thing to say. Calling somebody incompetent. Rudy Giuliani, enough said. Oh, he called Sidney Powell certifiable. So he's openly questioning her mental health. I think I've made my point here, right? What Neera Tanden did was mild compared to the family fight, the internal fight going on in Republican politics right now. So now that I've set up all the facts here, I'm going to tell you guys what I think is going on. And I'm going to address the probably the obvious elephant in the room, which is Neera Tanden is a woman of Indian descent, South Asian descent. Steve Schmidt is white. Ted Cruz is white. John Cornyn is white and male, right? Is this a gender thing? Is this a race thing? Does this feed into why Neera Tanden is being singled out for stuff that everyone else does? It's impossible to know for sure. And the fact that staunch progressives are mad at her too does not mean it's not a factor. Because unfortunately, a lot of the structures, a lot of the social structures that the extreme ends of the progressive movement engage in have a big fat whopping pile of it's okay when we do it, right? Just because you believe in equality does not mean you are immune to moments or taking the lowest common denominator or taking the easy argument. Even if you don't have any, hate or bigotry in your heart, sometimes it's really easy to take the low road. The example I use a lot of the time is when Barack Obama used Hillary Clinton's perceived lack of likability against her with that "you're likable enough, Hillary" moment. In the debates when she ran against him for the nomination. That I'm sure you can imagine if a male politician did that now, there would be a lot more examination because we know that male politicians don't have to be likable in the way that female politicians do to get elected. And Obama, who has done a lot of great things for women too, right? He's a husband, he's a father, he thinks his wife and kids are amazing, obviously. Even he had that moment. So we cannot rule out race and gender being a proponent. But if race and component, but if race and gender are a component, then the Sanders people are guilty of it too. This is not me voicing an opinion. This is me basically using, logic to paint this out. And again, I'm not saying it is. I'm saying it's something we can't say for sure. I'm saying it's something we can't rule out. If I were to guess, and again, this is a guess, it is impossible to know for sure, is the fact that she is female and not white an element, at least in some cases? Again, if you're asking me and it's just my subjective opinion, oh, hell yeah, it is. I mean, come on. Lindsey Graham called Trump a race-baiting, xenophobic bigot, right? And then he kissed ass and all was forgiven. And that's not a party line thing. I mean, Biden said things about people, people on both sides of the aisle have said things about each other and this, that. Political campaigns are blood sports. The idea that you are holding against someone something they said during the campaign, especially something as tame as the stuff that she deleted. And this is where I really dig down, and this is where I go, saying it's gender, saying it's race is just too easy, right? And that's why I got that out of the way before I talk about what's really, really going on here. Again, to level set, we have someone being likely going to be treated like they are unqualified to head up a government department because they were really good at their last job that hurt some people's feelings. That's what this is. There's no doubt about this, okay? What this means for freedom of speech aside, now we're getting into this thing that people care very much about in gaming, is this idea of cancel culture and the idea that people's social media utterances can come back to bite them no matter how justified they are because the zeitgeist changed and somebody's feelings got hurt. And like I said, this is why I'm talking about this now. There's two things that I think are extremely important here. One is that the right to offend must be real. I'm going to keep coming back to the right to offend because the right to offend is exceptionally important. It's important in civil discourse. It's important in the arts. It's important in entertainment. I separate arts and entertainment because arts to me is, I am following my passion. Whereas entertainment is the stuff that I do that first and foremost is designed to entertain, make a point second, right? If I wanted to make a point, I do YouTube videos where I talk like this, like everybody else, and do a lot of cuts and keep it to 7 minutes and be very, very fact-oriented because it's information first, right? That is not a mockery of people who do that. It's just for whatever reason, everybody who makes videos like that uses that voice. I don't know why. I'm going to be entertaining first, right? Okay. So this is obviously a big deal in gaming, right? Because there currently is not a monetization model for art-first games. People make these really great artistic games and they don't make any damn money off it. They get a lot of praise, but the only thing that gets your game sold is your game selling. So they've got to be entertaining enough to make money. Gaming is a capitalist industry, even in Canada, where we have a lot of government programs that help finance games. They still want a hope in hell that you're going to turn a profit. Okay. And this is what really interests me about this, okay? It is wrong that someone has a public job where it is their job to say contentious things, because that's their job. That is speaking truth to power, questioning, even tweaking, that whole concept of punching up, okay? Or sometimes in the realm of politics, even punching down, okay? Even in corporate stuff, punching down is part of the job sometimes. It's part of the job in law. The goal is to win. Your job is to win. Anything that gets you closer to winning within the realm of the law, fair game. There's no way to claim Neera Tanden wasn't exceptionally good at that. How do we know this? People from both of her both camps that went up against her are still friggin' mad about it. Okay? She drew blood. And in my attitude, in my mind, good for her. I don't quite get why the things she wrote about hurt their fifis so much. Like I said, they were mild. One could speculate maybe it hurt because it was true, but it might have also hurt because it was effective. You know, the wedging identity politics that the Sanders camp comments on, or the fact that there weren't a lot of, it was Sanders is a socialist, is a high tide raises all boats type. Therefore, his first campaign against Hillary Clinton, he didn't have a lot of social justice stuff in his platform. His platform was a socialist one, which meant social justice and economic justice are essentially the same thing. The great equalizer, or the great unequalizer, is class. That was his model. They retooled that a lot when he ran against Biden, because it was a weakness, because you can't get the nomination in the Democratic Party unless you appeal to Southern Black Democrats, who not only are less progressive, certainly less economically left, but also want to hear party platform stuff specifically to them. You need the shout outs. So, Tanden going there was, in the Sanders campaign minds, clearly effective, but oh my God, it was how many years ago now? It was pre-2016. You think they'd get in the playbook, but that doesn't happen when feelings are hurt. And again, obviously, these senators are quite sore about, it's quite a sore point that she went after them during the election, which I think is odd, because during an election, everybody goes after everybody. It's the thing people don't like about politics. And this is where I'm drilling down. I've left this last because I think this is the core. Okay? These things hurt. They hurt people's feelings. All right? And the expectation that it doesn't hurt people's feelings is not, it's not a reasonable one. The idea that it's just water off a duck's back, that's not how people work. Okay? When someone is fudging facts, or even flat out lying about you, or doing, focusing on ad hominem attacks on a person instead of focusing on their actions, or even, even better in politics. Maybe one day we'll go back to actually talking about policy as opposed to whether your opponent is evil. That'd be nice, but that's not the world we live in right now. But let's face it, these things hurt. It hurts everybody, no matter who does it. So again, tying into what I was saying, in the last video, you gotta follow the rules you set, right? The Sanders, not the Sanders campaign, but, the rabid Sanders supporters online, and not even Sanders supporters, the Sanders zealots, okay? They're a big pack of Bernie Sanders supporters who are lovely people and don't do this, okay? I want to separate the people who just go mean, okay? Anybody who doesn't agree with them is evil. Those people. Every political candidate has one. I'm focusing on the Bernie Sanders types right now because they're the ones that are pardon the term, but it's the only thing that describes it accurately right now, butt mad and looking for revenge because now Neera Tanden's up for confirmation. Okay? This particular group of Bernie Sanders supporters are some of the worst of the worst, up there with the MAGA types. One could argue that their policies are better, so that makes them less bad, but that's a matter of perspective, right? They engage in nastiness. And they engage in nastiness far beyond the 1,000 tweets that Neera Tanden is deleting. I admit, when I heard about this, I was expecting Steve Schmidt level smackdowns. And it didn't come even close to that. Maybe it's just because Steve Schmidt has no aspirations to be nominated for an office like this. You know what? When Neera Tanden was doing her job as an operative for the Hillary Clinton campaign and various other things, obviously she worked for Biden too, she wasn't focused on a job in the future. She was focused on the job she's doing right now, which is what you want from a good employee. You know as well as I do that the Sanders campaign, the Republicans complaining about her, if they had a Neera Tanden, they'd sure use her, right? But now we have to get into this balance, right, of the right to offend and then the reality that if you hurt someone's feelings, there are consequences for it. People are human, right? This is where the balance comes in. And this is where things stop being arithmetical. I wouldn't even say mathematical. It's not a 2 + 2 = 4 thing, right? It's more, we got this pile, and we got this pile, and I don't know, it looks like a couple dozen, right? It's more art than science, and it's certainly more subjective. There are certain things, I mean, where I came from was going after someone's mother. You went after someone's mother, that was it. During the whole Gamergate thing, someone went after my mother. I will never forget that. I haven't even forgiven it because it's a moot point. But people went after my mother and it had nothing to do with anything. She doesn't, to this day, she doesn't know what Gamergate is. But somebody called my mother old and ugly. Low blow. Okay? I think we can all agree there's some places you just don't go. When we get to when it's not insulting someone's mother, who has nothing to do with anything, where are the lines? That's open for debate. What I think this case and so many others, the Afropuffs thing, Bug Snacks is colonial, right? There is a balance we need to seek regarding the right to offend, as well as the consideration of people's feelings. Sometimes saying things that offend a certain group are fair, especially when it's true. Okay? If you are speaking the truth, if you are saying something factual, who gives a damn if someone is offended? Really, like when I do a video like this, when I used to write articles about games, when I would do a review, I can't be concerned whether someone was going to get offended that I did not think a particular game was as brilliant as the consensus. If I'm going to do that, I might as well hang it up because I still think my whole value to this space is that I do have a different perspective and I speak for other people who have similar approaches to games that I do that deserve to be heard. Not everybody has a platform. And yeah, that means I'm not going to think like in the day, Halo 3 or BioShock Infinite were Game of the Year 10 out of 10 games. I didn't think the original Last of Us was a 10 out of 10 game because of all the fucking bugs. Am I supposed to care whether someone gets offended? No. Now, one thing I had to learn is that in my desire to entertain, you gotta be careful with the personal attacks on developers because that will get your access cut. And My access got cut because people didn't like my willingness to talk to people with whom I disagreed, right? People didn't like the fact that, wait for it, I would continue to talk to people who said things that hurt my feelings. So maybe I identify with Neera Tanden a bit here, in that it was my job to get my feelings hurt, get back up, and report on what the people who were calling me every name in the book was saying. That was my job, so I did it. People demonized me for that. I don't regret it, because that was the job. And if people are gonna demonize me for doing my job, for doing the hard thing and sucking it up and feeling the hurt and doing it anyway, and those people have power to make me miserable and block me from opportunities precisely because I behaved like a professional instead of a weepy schoolgirl, harshness deliberate, okay, because that's the reality. That's a problem with the system. That's not a problem with my conduct. That's not even a problem with these people's reaction. Because if the system was functioning the way it was supposed to and proper checks and balance were in place, they would not have the power to block someone on emotional grounds. But we live in this era now of critical theory where someone being offended is enough to cut everything off. And you may remember, I have said for quite some time that when offense is the bar, when all it takes is for somebody to be offended and somebody can be canceled, somebody can be shut down, someone can be forced out, someone can be kept out, okay? The people with the most power, meaning the people these critical theories are designed to oppose, they're the ones that are going to seize that power for themselves. And they're the ones that are going to use a highly subjective system to maintain status quo. It's happening. And I got to give it to you guys in gaming. You called it. You called it when it was unpopular. And how do I know this? Precisely because I did my job. And even when a lot of you, it's okay to laugh, because this is something that you didn't insult my mother, you didn't cross any lines, so we can laugh about the horrible things you called me. You know, we can laugh about it because temperatures were high, tensions were high, people were triggered, shit happened. That's how I know that the reason people were so upset is that precisely these sorts of outcomes were what they were trying to prevent. And that's what they were so passionate about. And it wasn't about, and this is the thing about gamers, and if you don't understand this about gamers, you don't understand gamers, okay? It's not about whether a system benefits a particular group. It's a question whether, to the gamer, the game feels fair. And this is why I think so many gamers end up in like either the Trump camp or the Bernie bro camp, because the whole idea of a rigged system hits the fear response, hits the fear centers of the brain. That is the thing that a lot of people in gaming legitimately fear. It causes terror. It causes them to lose their good sense. And in some cases, it's because they were bullied as kids and there was nothing they could do about it. In some cases, they're systemized thinkers like me, so I can relate to this. And part of the reason I'm so concerned about fairness is, you know, if you've been following along, I don't have the same reactions as an average or normal person. I'm able to feel things and go, okay, I'm feeling this, but, you know, because I can put that emotion and my thoughts on different conveyor belts on the assembly line in my head and process them. I recognize not everybody can do that. People who are emotional reasoners, and, you know, one of the things I learned from doing like Myers-Briggs stuff, again, a system, is that emotional reasoners aren't inferior beings. They can do certain things better than us systemized thinkers. We need them for certain tasks that so we can do the things we're good at. So we got to show them respect. It's easier for us than them, but we can reasonably ask them to show we're not monsters. We're not psychopaths. You know, a lot of people might be on the autism spectrum, but not the same thing at all. Okay. So I want to give this to you guys. I want to stick a pin in this moment in history and say this Neera Tanden thing is proof yours guys' concerns were valid. And I'm glad I listened to you, even though I couldn't elevate it to really big sites because they wouldn't take it. I pitched, I tried, but they were like, nope, on emotional grounds, on personality politics grounds. They didn't like certain people involved, so they wouldn't run it. That's their failure, not mine, but I did try. And I'm glad I did, because you guys were right. Okay. If you like this content, because I'm sure I'm going to take some crap on this, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching.